And away we go, episode 1242 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Tuesday, January 20th, 2026, and we have more Washington Commanders coaching staff news. Reports on Monday afternoon that the team is promoting assistant offensive line coach Darnell Stapleton to offensive line coach and is promoting offensive quality control coach Shane Toub to assistant offensive line coach. Stapleton replaces Bobby Johnson, with whom the team on January 6th parted, along with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. The reporting is that Darnell Stapleton and Shane Toub are on board with what head coach Dan Quinn wants to do offensively. From Commanders insider Ben Standing of Last Man Standing on Substack on Monday afternoon on Darnell Stapleton, quote, he was heavily involved in pass protections this past season and is aligned with Dan Quinn's desired approach, end quote. From Commanders insider J.P. Finley of NBC4 on Monday afternoon in a post on X on Darnell Stapleton and Shane Toub, quote, sources say there's a strong alignment on offense and relationships with new OC David Blau, end quote. But you know, you take a step back and you think about all of this, and I posted this on X on Monday afternoon. Dan Quinn disliked the offense enough to part with Cliff Kingsbury and Bobby Johnson, but liked the offense enough to promote David Blau, Darnell Stapleton, and Shane Toub. And I'm not saying that any of these decisions are wrong. There is a lot here that we don't know. But this is an unusual offensive coaching staff revamp. Like normally, if you don't like the offense to where you part with the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, then you don't like the offense enough to promote three people beneath the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach. But again, there's a lot here that we don't know. I think that you do have to approach this coaching staff stuff with some humility. We have very little idea what goes on behind the scenes with the Commanders or any other NFL team. But for the sake of Dan Quinn, I do hope that he is right about all of these decisions. And specific to Bobby Johnson, there still has been little to no reporting on why he's gone. We seem to have a pretty good sense on why the team parted with Cliff Kingsbury. The Bobby Johnson parting has been a mystery. Hello and welcome to this Tuesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Make it 10 head coaching vacancies in the NFL's 2026 coaching cycle. The Buffalo Bills on Monday morning announced having fired head coach Sean McDermott. There is so much to that firing, but from our perspective as Commanders fans, how likely is Sean McDermott to immediately get another head coaching job? And if he's not immediately getting another head coaching job, might he be a viable candidate for Commanders defensive coordinator? Dan Quinn was the defensive line coach for William and Mary in Williamsburg, Virginia for the 1994 season. A safety for William and Mary at the time was Sean McDermott. Now, does that mean anything for right now? Who knows? But that is interesting. What a run for Sean McDermott as Bills head coach. 9 seasons, 8 playoff appearances, during which he went 8-8, but did not win an AFC championship. Regular season winning percentage of .662. This was ESPN NFL insider Adam Schefter on ESPN's NFL Live on Monday afternoon.
When the Buffalo Bills lost on Saturday to the Denver Broncos, that sealed Sean McDermott's fate in Buffalo. He was unable to get this team to a Super Bowl, and that essentially was his undoing in the end. We could look at a variety of factors as to why this team moved in a different direction, but they are squandering the prime years of Josh Allen's career, not being able to get him to a Super Bowl, and not being able to get him to a Super Bowl this year when there was no Patrick Mahomes, no Lamar Jackson, no Joe Burrow. Josh Allen, with him as the quarterback, they lost once in the wild card round, 4 times in the divisional round, twice in the AFC Championship game, never getting to the Super Bowl. And people around the league felt like this was a team that played tight in moments that mattered. I think it goes back to when they lost that game in Kansas City in the final 13 seconds. The team seemed to play tighter after that. And now here we are in a season where a team in their division is playing to go to the Super Bowl on Sunday. The New England Patriots may get back to the Super Bowl before the Bills can get there, with Drake May having replaced Tom Brady. And ultimately, Buffalo felt like it needed to do something to try to get to the next step. and they fired Sean McDermott, and they promoted their general manager, Brandon Beane, to the president of football operations along with his GM title.
Well, the Bills hired Sean McDermott as their head coach in January 2017, off him having spent the previous 6 seasons, 2011 through 2016, as Carolina Panthers defensive coordinator under then Panthers head coach and future Washington head coach Ron Rivera. Yeah, Sean McDermott is a Ron Rivera guy. Meantime, next segment, I'll speak with longtime Atlanta Falcons insider D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution about 2 main topics. A, the Commanders reportedly hiring Falcons quarterbacks coach DJ Williams as quarterbacks coach. And B, the anticipated candidacy of fired Falcons head coach Raheem Morris for Commanders defensive coordinator. D. Orlando Ledbetter knows the Falcons extremely well. What do the Commanders have in their new quarterbacks coach for QB1 Jaden Daniels? And how viable of a defensive coordinator candidate is Raheem Morris, with whom Dan Quinn worked during his time as Falcons head coach? And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Capitals and Washington Wizards. Each team had an afternoon game on Monday. Each team lost. The Caps now are just 7-11-4 over their last 22 games, a 5-2 loss at the Colorado Avalanche on Monday. The Wizards, they lost their 7th consecutive game off going 5-2 over their previous 7 games, a 110-106 loss to the Los Angeles Clippers at Capital One Arena on Monday. But 4 key young guys for our rebuilding and tanking Wizards, Alex Sarr, Kyshawn George, Bub Carrington, and Trey Johnson, continued to do well. Before we get to feedback, some college basketball. Virginia up 2 spots to number 14 in the latest Associated Press Top 25 poll, which came out on Monday afternoon. Among others receiving votes for a second consecutive week, George Mason, and it won again. The Patriots in the 2025-2026 regular season now are 18-1 overall, including 6-0 in the A-10. A 69-64 win over George Washington at Eagle Bank Arena in Fairfax, Virginia on Monday evening. Mason overcame a 9-point first-half deficit. Mason at 18-1 is off to the best 19-game start to a regular season in program history. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me, the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Email from Sterling Porter, CPA, on the Commanders having parted with Cliff Kingsbury as offensive coordinator and having promoted assistant quarterbacks coach David Blau to offensive coordinator, writes Sterling. Hello, Al. So, we have a defensive-minded head coach who once coached in the NFC South and wants to run a run-heavy style of offense. Who does that remind you of? Where is Martin Mayhew when you need him? All jokes aside, I do favor a more run-oriented offense to better protect JD5, but as you have stated before, this is a passing league, so we'll see what happens, but this reminds me too much of a certain former head coach of our team. As always, appreciate your work in the pod, praying you have a good rest of your week. Thank you very much for that, Sterling. There are a number of parallels between Washington's last 2 head coaches, Ron Rivera and Dan Quinn. Each guy was hired by Washington with him having been a head coach for an NFC South team. Each guy, as a head coach of an NFC South team, won 1 NFC championship, but then lost in the ensuing Super Bowl. Each guy was/is a head coach with a defensive background. Each guy surprisingly made the playoffs in his first season as Washington head coach. A lot of parallels between Ron Rivera and Dan Quinn. And now we have perhaps another parallel, dare I say a frightening parallel. Each guy is Washington head coach advocating for a more run-oriented offense, although I would like to first hear from Dan Quinn on this change at offensive coordinator before ripping the guy for his new offensive direction. There's a difference between wanting an antiquated run-oriented style of offense versus just wanting a rushing offense that is more emphasized and is more closely tied to the passing game, a la what the San Francisco 49ers do. I am very much looking forward to hearing from Quinn on why the change at offensive coordinator happened. But, as we are having this conversation, I am reminded of the formula. Do you remember the formula? The formula was Washington's offensive philosophy during the 2021 and 2022 regular seasons. The formula, which was talked up quite a bit by Ron Rivera, involved leaning heavily on the running game with the idea of setting up play-action passes and setting up manageable third downs and winning time of possession. We first saw the formula become a thing during Washington's 4-game winning streak during the 2021 regular season. We then saw the formula again become a thing during the Commanders' run of 6 wins in 7 games during the 2022 regular season. And the formula got promoted by not just Ron Rivera, but also Martin Mayhew during his time as Washington general manager. Take you back to a joint season-ending press conference for Ron Rivera and Martin Mayhew on January 10th, 2023. Here was Ron referencing the formula.
I think, again, if we can go out and we can add some talent in some areas, continue to work on what our formula is, I think it gives us an opportunity to continue to grow and get better.
Yes, the formula. Here was Martin Mayhew during that presser referencing the formula.
Our formula of football is playing great defense, running the ball, having the quarterback utilize play action off our run scheme. That's what has worked for us.
Yes, sir, the formula. Whenever Dan Quinn discusses the change at offensive coordinator, he better not reference the formula. We're all in trouble if he references the formula. The formula ended up not working out so well. Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It is a buildup of this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for rough days after drinking. Well, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink produces an enzyme to break down this byproduct. Make Z-Biotics pre-alcohol probiotic drink your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best the next day. Enjoy drinks with friends. Enjoy drinks while watching the big game, and don't sacrifice your productivity for the next day. Start your night with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol and wake up ready to show up strong at work, clear-headed, focused, and back to business. Go to zbiotics.com/Galdi and you'll get 15% off your first order when you use the promo code Galdi at checkout. Plus, Z-Biotics pre-alcohol is backed by a 100% money-back guarantee, so there's no risk. Also, subscriptions are available for maximum consistency. That's zbiotics.com/Galdi. Use the promo code Galdi at checkout for 15% off. Hey, please consider subscribing to the podcast if you're not already doing that. Subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you're already subscribing, thank you. The Atlanta Falcons, they on Monday morning announced that they have retained Jeff Ulbrich as defensive coordinator. This off the Falcons late night this past Saturday night, having announced the hiring of fired Cleveland Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski as head coach. Ulbrich had been considered a likely candidate for the Washington Commanders defensive coordinator vacancy, but still considered a likely candidate for the Commanders defensive coordinator vacancy is Raheem Morris, who was the Falcons head coach from January 25th, 2024 to this past January 4th when the Falcons announced having fired Morris. So both Morris and Ulbrich worked with Commanders head coach Dan Quinn during his time as Falcons head coach. And also regarding the Commanders and Falcons is that the Commanders, per reports last Wednesday evening, January 14th, are hiring Falcons quarterbacks coach DJ Williams as quarterbacks coach. DJ Williams, the son of Doug Williams, who as Redskins quarterback was the MVP of Super Bowl 17 and who still works for the team. Doug Williams is the Commanders senior advisor to the general manager. And so I'm very pleased to welcome to the Al Galdi podcast Falcons insider D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, for which he has covered the Falcons since October 2003. You can read his work at ajc.com. He has ties to Washington, D.C. He went to Howard University, from which he graduated in 1984. He then went to the University of Cincinnati College of Law, as he also has a law degree. You can follow him on X at D. Orlando AJC. It is very nice to talk to you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Al. Thanks for having me on your podcast, and what a wonderful introduction. My parents would be proud.
Well, they should be. When D. Orlando Ledbetter thinks of being at Howard in the early and mid 1980s, he thinks of what?
The good times we had at the Hilltop. The Dunk Patrol, watching them do work in the Bird Gymnasium on the way to the first NCAA tournament in the history of the school, and the great Larry Spriggs, who would go on to play in the NBA for the Los Angeles Lakers.
A lot of good times, I'm sure. So DJ Williams, a quarterback for Grambling State for the 2011 through 2014 seasons. He spent 5 seasons, 2019 through 2023, as an offensive assistant for the New Orleans Saints. And he then spent 2 seasons with the Atlanta Falcons, served as offensive assistant/assistant quarterbacks coach for the Falcons in the 2024 season, served as quarterbacks coach for the Falcons in the 2025 season. What would you say that the Commanders are getting in DJ Williams as quarterbacks coach?
Yeah, he's a guy that I've been following him. He played quarterback at Grambling. Knew he wanted to get into coaching when he saw he couldn't play. Sent his resume and everything to 32, all 32 teams. And Sean Payton hired him. So he worked his way up at the Saints, put in a lot of work there. Later on in his career with Derek Carr. Then comes to the Falcons, and he was assistant coach the first year, and his job was pretty much trying to get Penix ready. And, then he got a promotion to the actual quarterback job. So, he was in charge of developing Michael Penix for 2 years, and, with kind of mixed results on the field.
The Atlanta Falcons took quarterback Michael Penix Jr. with the number 8 overall pick in the 2024 NFL Draft out of the University of Washington. How is his development going?
Yeah, I think he's a young and up-and-coming quarterback who, young quarterbacks have issues. I mean, just did some last week on the start of Peyton Manning's career, Troy Aikman's career. They don't take off till later. Nobody comes in the league and sets the league on fire. Matt Ryan went to the playoffs as a rookie. C.J. Stroud did too later on, but Matt Ryan was leaning on a 2,000-yard ground game with Michael Turner and Jarius Norwood. And I just think maybe the Texans caught lightning in the bottle there. So young quarterback struggle. He took over with 3 games to go. And then this year you start to see footwork issues. You could see they could read defenses early on. That wasn't a problem because the Bucs threw every blitz in the book at him in the first game, and he was able to get the ball out to his hot people. So reading wasn't a problem. He was able to teach them that, but we started to see footwork issues and not throwing the ball over the middle of the field. We didn't understand what that was. So there was still some work to do, but you did see a second-year guy get ready to play, and DJ was a big part of that.
Was DJ Williams influential with another Falcons quarterback over the last 2 seasons, a certain former Redskins quarterback, Kirk Cousins?
Not so much because, Kurt's a veteran, but, I'm sure he's in the room with him as his job specifically was grooming Michael Penix. But then, he's got the group this last year. So Kurt's in there, and they had Easton Stick in there, and all the energy was toward getting Penix, progressing in his career. Then he gets hurt. Then, Kurt's in charge. Yeah, so then he's working with Kurt full-time on a day-to-day basis. So I'm sure he's learned something from a veteran.
What most struck you in your conversations with DJ Williams over the last 2 seasons?
Yeah, we had the regular type of access, but when we see each other, we'd always talk because I would say something like, "Hey, they had the Grambling band here for you today," and they knew I went to HBCU, so we would always chat anyway. And tough game, or how's it going? How's he coming along? And always nice guy and respectful. In that regard. But yeah, we did have sit downs with him on the regular. There was a big blow up this year where Penix, on the podium, just kind of, they asked, well, who does he go to for help? It must have been after that rough game in Carolina. And he named a bunch of people, and one of them wasn't DJ. So then people were like, see, they're not even supporting their quarterback. And so, we talked to DJ about that. That story's out there. And he's like, that's just absurd. We meet every day. We text every day. We call every day. There's all kind of support for him. But I don't think Penix understood the question and the internet misinterpreted the situation. But yeah, so that was the last big interview with DJ. I would try to make sure I got him in the off season, during OTAs and stuff like that. And, talked about his career and his journey, trying to follow his dad's footsteps, into the league. Didn't quite make it that way, but he's made it as a coach now.
So to be clear, there were not problems between DJ Williams and Michael Penix.
They're not that we know of. No, none at all. I even had some overflow from that. So, because, of course they're going to say, no, there's no problems. But, so then you got to kind of keep looking at it closer over time. And there didn't seem to be any issues. We're at practice every day, not for the whole practice anymore, but you didn't see any issues pop up out there on the field or, browsing through the locker room and doing the, regular media, beat work. Didn't see anything that was alarming.
We're talking with Falcons insider D. Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. The three most likely outcomes with Raheem Morris in this 2026 NFL coaching cycle would seem to be he gets another head coaching job, he gets another defensive coordinator job, or he takes a job as an NFL analyst for a media outlet. Which outcome do you think is most likely?
Yeah, most likely as a DC job. I could see the clear path to LA or Washington. If Chris Shula goes, reuniting with Sean where they won the Super Bowl could be, one clear path. Reuniting with Dan where, they almost won the Super Bowl. I know he was Dan's number one guy, trusted assistant, moved him all over the place. Raheem did everything for Dan when he was here. So there's a lot of trust between those two. And it's just probably met whether he wants to be, back home on the East Coast, being a New Jersey guy, or digging the flow on the West Coast for him. He's gonna have options, that's for sure.
What went wrong for Raheem Morris over his 2 seasons as Falcons head coach?
That was clear. It was right from the beginning. It's like he had 2 first-year coordinators, first-time coordinators, not first year, first-time NFL play callers. So, they might have been the best play callers ever, but they're going to get caught up too. And so Zach Taylor had a good first year. Not Zach Taylor. I'm mixing up my Zachs. But Zach had Zach Taylor's the Bengals coach.
Zach Robinson.
But Zach had Robinson. Yeah, he had a good first year, but then folks caught up to his, what he was doing. And he didn't counter. He was able to get Bijan off, and I was looking at today, he got yards both years, but this year he was 24th in points and then like 30th on third downs. So I thought he should have had a senior advisor to adjust when he got caught up to. The first D coordinator, Jimmy Lakes, didn't work out. They had fired, and then they brought in Olbrich. And, that stabilized the defense. He did a great job with all the rookies, but still kind of middle of the pack defense. But so I thought he should have had a more senior staff coming in. You could see the adjustments, but the volatility, up and downs were too much, I think, for the owner to take. You beat Buffalo, you beat the Rams, but then you lose to the Jets. You lose to the Panthers twice. The owners, his team was all over the place, no flat line, and I think that eventually cost him his job here.
Raheem Morris now has had 2 stints as an NFL head coach, not counting his time as Falcons interim head coach in the 2020 regular season off the Falcons firing Dan Quinn. Morris is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach for the 2009 through 2011 regular seasons, went 17-31. Morris is Falcons head coach for the 2024 and 2025 regular seasons, went 8-9 in each regular season. Is he one of these guys who's better as a coordinator than as a head coach, or not necessarily?
No, I think he was going to be a good head coach. I thought he should have got his year. I thought he earned the third year by finishing with the 4 wins. So maybe he will get another shot, maybe not. But Dan Campbell got 3 years. His record wasn't any good the first 2 years. Kyle Shanahan didn't take off right away. But the owners are getting just so jumpy now that they're getting guys out of there before 3 years. And I don't think he got a good shot here. That wasn't enough, given the salary cap situation, the quarterback situation. You had to retool the defense. It just but now it's because Stefanski can maybe come in here and win with Raheem's team, basically.
People who work with Raheem Morris rave about him. What is it about him that's so compelling?
Well, he's a personable truth teller. He's not giving you, BS. If you're doing a good job, you're gonna know about it. If you need to do better, you're gonna know about it. If there's something that you need to spend some more time on, you're gonna know about it. But he's gonna encourage you and uplift you while he's telling you the truth in some maybe hard and difficult ways. And I've seen him adjust over time from 16 to now, because he was on Quinn's staff from 15 to 20 with the interim, and then comes back. Him adjusting to the new style of players too. He was brought up by the old school guys, Monty Kiffin and those guys down in Tampa, and they coached a certain way. He doesn't coach that way anymore. He's more, encompassing, not a player's coach, but more understanding of the task at hand and the different kind of players that are in the league today. So I've seen that adjustment in his coaching, and he's talked about that at length.
Another thing with Raheem Morris is that his coaching background isn't just on defense. His time with the Falcons during Dan Quinn's time as Falcons head coach included Morris being an offensive assistant. You don't always see that with defensive coordinator candidates.
Yeah, no doubt. And that was a big part of him trying to learn more on the offensive side of the ball. He's wide receivers coach, so he's in the meetings with Shanahan. Kyle, it was the offensive staff was amazing. Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel was in there. Matt LaFleur and Mike LaFleur are all in that staff. And, he didn't want to get labeled as a defensive-only coach, and Dan helped him get that offensive experience, which I think, he should have learned how to call it, too, because, that might have came in handy helping out Zach when he was here. Since he's going to take a young guy, I was like, well, if something goes wrong, who's going to take over? Nobody. They didn't have that plan in place. That was a big part of his time here with Dan, was learning the offensive side of the ball, so he wouldn't be labeled next time around should he got a shot as a defensive-only coach.
Yeah, really unique background. Falcons insider Orlando Ledbetter of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Thank you, and all the best.
All right, Al, thanks for having me, and all the best to you. Thanks for having me.
All right, Orlando Ledbetter, a product of Howard. I love that. Raheem Morris, as you likely know, a former Washington assistant. He was the Redskins defensive backs coach for the 2012 through 2014 seasons. Your Washington defensive backs coaches since then. Perry Fewell for the 2015 and 2016 seasons. Torian Gray for the 2017 and 2018 seasons. Ray Horton for the 2019 season, Chris Harris for the 2020 through 2022 seasons, Brent Wieselmeyer, and then Christian Garcia for the 2023 season as then head coach Ron Rivera on Friday morning, November 24th, 2023, Black Friday 2023, announced that he had fired defensive coordinator Jack Del Rio and defensive backs coach Brent Wieselmeyer. And Tom Donatel has been the Commanders' defensive backs coach for the last 2 seasons, 2024 and 2025. Man, how about some of those names? Ray Horton, remember him? Brent Wieselmeyer, remember him? Going to be so interesting to see who the Commanders hire at defensive coordinator, not just because of the importance of that job, but also what happens with the rest of the defensive coaching staff. The rest of the Commanders' defensive coaching staff includes Jason Simmons as defensive pass game coordinator, Tom Donatel as defensive backs coach, William Gay as assistant defensive backs coach, Daryl Tapp as defensive line coach, Sharif Floyd as assistant defensive line coach, Ken Norton Jr. as linebackers coach, Ryan Kerrigan as assistant linebackers coach / pass rush specialist. Are these guys staying or are these guys going? Hey, if you are planning a wedding or you know someone who is, check out or have that person check out cateringbyuptown.com. Catering by Uptown delivers not just delicious food of the highest quality, but also a flawless and memorable experience tailored to your special day. Catering by Uptown's team is dedicated to meeting your every need with elegance and precision. If you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you can set up your own personal tour of one of Catering by Uptown's premier venues, including outstanding waterfront venues. Also, Catering by Uptown is great for parties, so whether a birthday, an anniversary, a retirement, or a charity gala, Catering by Uptown understands that special events deserve to be celebrated in style. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. Catering by Uptown is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, who are great Commanders fans and loyal supporters of this podcast. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Thank you to all of you who have given this podcast a 5-star rating and who have written nice reviews of the podcast. You on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify can both rate the podcast and write reviews. 5-star ratings are very much appreciated. Positive reviews are very much appreciated. What is up with the Washington Capitals? 5-2 loss at the Colorado Avalanche on Monday. The Caps now have a 3-game losing streak during which they have been outscored 13-6. The Caps now are just 7-11-4 over their last 22 games. The Caps in the NHL's 2025-2026 regular season now are 24-20-6. Now, it is worth noting that the Avalanche are outstanding. They, for this regular season, have an NHL best 76 points, but that doesn't mean that the Caps had to get stomped like they did. The Caps so need perhaps their MVP this season, winger Tom Wilson, to be back. He did not play for an 8th consecutive game due to a lower body injury. Also, center Pierre-Luc Dubois remains out since getting injured in the Caps' 3-1 loss to the New York Islanders at Capital One Arena on Halloween. He, on November 7th, underwent surgery to address injuries to his abdominal and adductor muscles, was expected to miss 3 to 4 months. But the Caps' struggles right now are not just about Tom Wilson and Pierre-Luc Dubois being out. The Caps, for much of this regular season, had been doing well in terms of puck possession, not lately. And the Caps in this loss at the Avalanche on Monday got destroyed in the puck possession battle. The Caps had just 24 shots on goal to the Avalanche's 44 shots on goal. And per natural stat trick, had just 43 5-on-5 shot attempts to the Avalanche's 75, although that did include the Caps having 12 5-on-5 high-danger shot attempts to the Avalanche's 14. But the Caps, in a third period that they lost 2-0, had just 3 shots on goal to the Avalanche's 17. The Caps' third line of left wing Connor McMichael, center Justin Sourdif, and right wing Ryan Leonard was horrendous. Those 3 players accounted for the 3 Caps players with the 3 worst 5-on-5 shot attempt percentages for the game per natural stat trick. Sourdif returned from a 3-game absence caused by an upper body injury, but he was not at his best. The Caps in this game got dominated, especially in 5-on-5 play. The Caps in this game got shredded by maybe the best player in the NHL, Avalanche top-line center Nathan MacKinnon. He scored a second-period power play goal and a third-period even-strength goal, giving him an NHL best 38 goals in this regular season. Also, he had a primary assist for his 47th assist in this regular season, and he had a game-high 19 total shot attempts, including a game-high 10 shots on goal. 2 goals, including a power play goal, a primary assist, and 19 total shot attempts, including a game-high 10 shots on goal. The Caps got Nathan MacKinnon on Monday. Here was his power play goal.
Here comes McKinnon trying to do it himself, and he did, and he scores. Nathan McKinnon says, I got this, coming right up the middle from center ice, and lets it fly and just beats Charlie Lindgren. That is his NHL-leading 37th goal of the season and the 404th of his NHL career. The power play marker makes it 2-1 Colorado.
John Walton on the Washington Capitals radio network, and in the third period.
And been involved in a close game all afternoon here. A puck loose in front and banged home by who else? Nathan McKinnon on a puck that was turned over in behind the net. It's a 3-point night for McKinnon on a couple of goals. And the Avalanche now lead at 5-2.
You know, Nathan McKinnon has multiple nicknames, including Nate Dogg, Mac Daddy, and Nate the Great. Call him what you want, but he on Monday had his way with the Caps. Their starting goaltender for this game was their number 2 goaltender, Charlie Lindgren. He again got hung out to dry, and he again did not do well. He stopped just 39 of the 44 shots on goal that he faced, and he committed a third-period tripping minor. The Caps went just 5 for 6 on the penalty kill. The Caps did go 1 for 4 on the power play as defenseman Jakob Chychrun scored again.
And Leonard with his own entry here. Capitals are getting in okay here on both power plays and getting set up. Chychrun shooting, he scores! A puck from the outside, a center point chance, and Jakob Chychrun continues to be the hot hand. That's a power play goal, and we're tied at 1 with 12:33 to go in the first.
Jakob Chychrun, power play goal, 7:27 into the first period for his 18th goal in this regular season. Also had a game-high 4 block shots, but he committed 2 penalties, a second-period high-sticking double minor, and a third-period delay game puck over glass penalty. Caps top-line right wing Ethan Frank scored an even-strength goal 16-15 into the second period, giving him 11 goals in this regular season. He had a secondary assist, and he was tied for number 1 on the Caps in total shot attempts with 7, including 4 shots on goal. And the person with whom he was tied was Caps top-line left wing Alex Ovechkin. He had a primary assist for his 22nd assist in this regular season, and he was tied for number 1 on the Caps in total shot attempts with 7, including a team best 5 shots on goal. So some good stuff from Jakob Chychrun, Ethan Frank, and Alex Ovechkin, but this overall was a bad loss for the Caps. So the Caps' healthy scratches for this loss at the Avalanche on Monday were winger Sonny Milano and defenseman Trevor Van Riemsdyk and Dylan McElrath. Now, Caps head coach Spencer Carberry, during his post-game session with reporters on Monday evening, was fairly upbeat, but he said this regarding what's going on with the Caps right now.
I'll give you an example, and obviously the third period we make a bunch of mistakes, and this is what you have to understand is we've got a lot of young players that are going through this for the first time, okay? So you look at the second period 1-1, right? Okay, there's a key moment in that period, if you remember back. Ryan Leonard, young player, right? He's going through this for the first time. He throws a behind-the-back pass. He thought it was... Okay, sort of gets a puck. Now all of a sudden he goes cross ice. He gets picked off. So there's 2 situations in a 1-1 game on the road in a hostile environment. Now we take a 4-minute penalty right after that sequence. Now all of a sudden it's 2-1 Colorado. My point is young. It's a hard league to learn, and those guys are fighting their asses off. They're playing hard. They're learning on the fly, and they're doing a lot of good things. But those are just examples of some of the plays that we're making late in the game. We mismanage. We get beat one-on-one. A puck behind the net, like those little things right now, we're just making those astronomical mistakes that when it happens, just no different than what I explained. Now you take a 4-minute penalty. You don't think, well, they didn't score on that turnover, Carbs. What's the big deal? Well, we took a 4-minute penalty on that. So now it's 2-1.
Yeah, just a lot of things not going the Caps' way right now. Next up for the Caps at the Vancouver Canucks, Wednesday night at 10. The best product for skincare is OneSkin. OneSkin formulas are powered by the OS1 peptide, a patented peptide built on longevity science proven to target aging at the cellular level. OneSkin supports the cellular repair that keeps your skin looking and feeling better as you get older. This is not about adding extra steps to your routine. This is about swapping in smarter ones. Born from over 10 years of longevity research, OneSkin's OS1 peptide is proven to target the cells that cause the visible signs of aging, helping you unlock your healthiest skin now and as you age. And for a limited time, OneSkin is making it even easier to stay consistent with up to 30% off your first 3 subscription orders when you use the promo code GALDY at oneskin.co/GALDY. That's oneskin.co/GALDY and use the promo code GALDY. oneskin.co/GALDY, up to 30% off with the promo code GALDY. And after your purchase, you'll be asked where you heard about OneSkin. Please support our show and say that Al Galdi sent you. Hey, you can put this podcast to work for you by advertising on the podcast. Grow your business or practice. Make more money. We'd love to have you on board. Podcast advertising works and is very affordable. You get a true bang for your buck. We right now are offering special discounted deals. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is thealgaldipodcast@yahoo.com. Make it 7 consecutive losses for our rebuilding and tanking Washington Wizards since they went 5-2 over a 7-game stretch. A 110-106 loss to the Los Angeles Clippers at Capital One Arena on Monday in the Wizards' annual Martin Luther King Day afternoon home game. This was a 3 p.m. Eastern game, and this was nearly a Wizards win. The Wizards blew a 10-point third-quarter lead. They, in the third quarter, held a 10-point lead at 70-60. They then lost the rest of the game 50-36, although the game was tied at 106 in the final minute. The Wizards remained without multiple key players. Bilal Coulibaly did not play for a 3rd consecutive game due to a lower back strain. Trae Young for a 6th time in 6 games since being acquired by the Wizards via trade on January 9th. Did not play due to a right knee sprain and a right quadriceps contusion. Tristan Vukcevic was not available for a 3rd consecutive game. He was listed as dealing with a left hamstring strain. He, for the first 2 games, was listed as being out due to left knee soreness. And Cam Whitmore is done for the season. The Wizards this past Thursday afternoon, January 15th, announced that Whitmore had started the recovery process for a diagnosed venous condition and would miss the remainder of the season. The Wizards, in this loss to the Clippers on Monday, were mixed both defensively and offensively. They held the Clippers to just 5 for 28 on threes and generated 16 Clippers turnovers, but the Wizards allowed the Clippers to go 31 for 50 on twos and getting outscored in the paint 60-38. And the Wizards did not defend without fouling. They allowed the Clippers to have 38 free throw attempts, and the Clippers went 33 for 38 on free throws. And a big part of that, James Harden, he in 36-57 as a starter, went 18 for 20 on free throws. So went 0 for 5 on threes, 9 for 12 on twos, finished with 36 points, 9 assists versus 3 turnovers and 7 rebounds. And the Wizards went 13 for 35 on threes and 19 for 22 on free throws, but also just 24 for 51 on twos. And the Wizards committed 20 turnovers. But this game, to me, as a Wizards fan, was a success. The tank continued with a loss, but key young Wizards players played well. There are 2 things that I, as a Wizards fan, want with each game right now. A loss, but with key young Wizards players playing well. 4 key young players for the Wizards: Alex Sarr, Kyshawn George, Bub Carrington, and Trey Johnson combined for 78 of the Wizards' 106 points. The blossoming of Alex Sarr continues. He was the Wizards' leading scorer. He, in 30 minutes, 55 seconds as a starter, had 28 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 assists versus no turnovers. He went 2 for 5 on threes, 8 for 14 on twos, and 6 for 6 on free throws. A number of impressive moments for Sarr in this game. Take it to the third quarter.
Now George, edge of the circle, right elbow, behind the back pass, Sarr, top of the arc for 3, it's there! Oh, it's there, 22 for Alex Sarr. All right, James Harden, I should have 20. Alex Sarr, you've got 22, 62-58 Wizards.
Dave Johnson on the Washington Wizards radio network, and later in the third quarter.
Carrington now center circle, bounce pass to George, left of the circle. Sarr, top of the arc. Sarr hands off to Carrington, back to Sarr, foul line, drives and slams! Drives and slams, 72-65, and he's got 24.
Don't you see a trend, Dave, where the Wizards now, option A, is looking for Alex Sarr?
And we heard analyst Glenn Consor in on that call. Alex Sarr is the number one bright spot for the Wizards so far this season. Number two is Kyshawn George. He in 33-32 as a starter had 18 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. He did commit 6 turnovers, and he did go just 2 for 6 on threes and just 4 for 10 on twos, though he also went 4 for 5 on free throws. Another good game for Bub Carrington off his bad start to this season. He in 37-15 as a starter had 17 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. He did commit 5 turnovers, but he went 3 for 7 on threes and 4 for 5 on twos. Did not attempt a free throw, but regarding him going 3 for 7 on threes, Carrington hit a big three to tie the game at 103 in the fourth quarter. Here was that three.
And cross-court pass through Collins' legs. Been stolen by Middleton. Loose in the center circle. Harden left the circle. Nicks off the rim. It was with less than a second of the shot clock. Carrington comes up court. Right wing outside the arc. Trey Johnson for 3 off the rim. Long rebound. Middleton tips it to Carrington. The Wizards are fighting. Step back 3. Oh, it's there! It's there! Amen and hallelujah! Fans get up. And the Wizards have tied it at 103.
Yeah, that was a 30-foot three-pointer by Bub Carrington. Tremendous shot. And how about this? Carrington became just the 8th player in NBA history to record at least 500 regular season rebounds and at least 500 regular season assists before turning 21 years old. And Trey Johnson, he in 30-28 as a starter, had 15 points, 5 assists versus no turnovers, and a team best plus-minus rating of plus 14. He went 3 for 7 on threes and 3 for 5 on twos. He did not attempt a free throw. It's too bad that Bilal Coulibaly again is injured. He just cannot stay healthy, but he is part of this group of key young Wizards players. But in the meantime, the other 4 guys, Alex Sarr, Kyshawn George, Bub Carrington, and Trey Johnson, are doing well. We joined the postgame press conference of Wizards head coach Brian Keefe on Monday evening. Had this back and forth between Wizards insider Chase Hughes of Monumental Sports Network and Keefe, and then you hear a back and forth between David Aldridge of The Athletic and Keefe.
What can you say just about the value of getting your young players in those situations, whether the shots fell or not?
Yeah, that's the great lessons. Last 2 games, really proud of guys. We just came back off a trip, 1 day off, early game. And our guys put it on the line, and we got in these situations, and there's so many things to learn, so many things to execute. And we're playing guys when we talked pregame, this is the 9th leading scorer in the NBA history we played against tonight, and all the different coverages we threw at him, and I thought we executed a lot of them. So good stuff to learn about defensive execution and offensive execution down the stretch. These are really invaluable for our guys, and it's great to be in them.
We saw Alex get off to a hot start against 2 big men who have made all defense before. What'd you like about his game tonight?
It was a mixture of putting pressure on the rim and then obviously stretching the floor with his shooting ability. That's a unique presence, and that's something he's continued to grow with. It makes it hard to guard.
Brian, of late, your team's competed a lot deeper into games, and it's not leading to wins, but what is leading to them competing at a higher level and being able to stay in games and have a chance to win games?
I think it's just the growth of our team, realize the formula that works for us. We can see our defense is definitely improving. Even though they had that high free throw rate tonight, I think I was like a 112 defensive rating. Those are going to keep you in games. And then it's our ability we're making good reads with our passing and our offense. So we're learning how to play with each other. I thought one of our better passing games tonight. So I think those 2 things, and then just the resiliency of our group, learning how to play through tough times. There's tough times in every game, and for a young team, I think we had to go through some of those lessons early, and those things of stacking those and reviewing them, talking about them, coming back the next day, I think those things are all paying off now.
With Alex, he's obviously shown an ability to block shots and change shots. At the ends of games, how does he put his fingerprints on a game defensively when it's a guy like Harden who's great at getting fouled, who's great at getting to the line, and is very crafty with the ball?
Yeah, those are all part of it, right? That's what he's learning. Just having his presence on the floor alone just deters shots. You can never underestimate how many shots people are not driving because they know he's down there. His ability to switch, his ability, you saw him trapping the ball tonight and forcing him to make passes off that. He's got some really unique skill set for a big that can really imprint the game at all times, and especially in the fourth.
All right, next up for the Wizards, home to the Denver Nuggets, Thursday night at 7. And that'll do it for you and me for now. Keep the feedback coming. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. Wednesday show, episode 1243. We'll include a lot for you on the Washington Commanders. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, and I'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Our formula of football is playing great defense, running the ball, having the quarterback utilize play action off our run scheme. That's what has worked for us.
Some things in life are just made for each other. Peanut butter and jelly, macaroni and cheese, Modelo and college football. College football season is Modelo season, and the season has officially kicked off. The Modelo Recruiter is back in action, looking to reward full-time fans who give their all for their team and their school, week in and week out. If you're listening to this, you've been recruited. So lace them up and get out there. And don't forget to make time for a well-deserved ice-cold reward. Because college football wouldn't be the same without you. So grab yourself a Modelo and enjoy, the official beer sponsor of the College Football Playoff, Modelo.